He's in a few more. And then he's in Die Hard with a Vengeance. Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance in 1995, which I want to just talk about because I actually rewatched that last year because we talked about it with the Batman, which I still have yet to see, but there's this connection with like the idea that the villain is setting up traps and riddles for the protagonist to solve. And I saw that Die Hard with a Vengeance is there, and I watched it, and Die Hard with a Vengeance is the best Die Hard sequel, and the only Die Hard films you ever need to see is Die Hard, and if you have to watch another one, Die Hard with a Vengeance, case closed. You do not need to see 2
for this, yeah.
You do not need to see 2, and you do not see 4, 5, and thank God that's the only ones, right?
Yeah.
The reason why Die Hard with a Vengeance is really good is that it was never written as a Die Hard film. Do you know that? It was originally a Lethal Weapon film.
Oh, I didn't know that, but that makes so much sense when you think about it.
Originally it was a spec script.
I'm too old for this.
Yeah. So originally it was a spec script, right, which is just written, it was like a generic thriller called Simon Says. And then it got kind of worked over, and it was going to be a Lethal Weapon film. And then at like the last minute, I think the studio like turned it down, and then another studio bought it, and they're like, "This is going to be Die Hard 3."
I love that.
And it was going to be Lawrence Fishburne, and then they put Samuel L. Jackson in it, and then you have this film because it's not I'm trapped somewhere with terrorists like the second one tried to do.
It's not a lock-in. It's like it's
a completely different thing. It's like there's a villain. It's all set in one day, causing mayhem across the city, and for some reason he wants John McClane, and John McClane has to jump through these hoops. Great little... in a way, it's kind of similar mechanics.
Get me John McClane.
Yeah, it's very similar mechanics to the first one. And like you've got a very simple concept that works well. It's like, okay, instead of being locked in a building, he's locked in a city. And instead of having to like go through the different floors and solve the problems in the building... And the terrorist plot
is tied to him. It's personal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he has to go through the city. Anyway, it's a blast. It's solid. I really miss that kind of like 90s glossy action film that film typifies. Like you're like, this is such of its time.
I've not seen it in so long, but I remember having such a good time with it. Yeah. And I think again, it's one of those things that was part of the VHS put it on the shelf era of a film you'd feel like watching a few times over and like, oh, I love let's watch Die Hard 3. And like, or something you pop on TV and like enjoy jumping into.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a way that it's disposable or just like it has less of a sense of place like other films do. I just think it captures that era of cinema, probably writing and the way in which we approached action blockbusters completely differently.
Yeah,
I don't want to say they don't make them like they used to, but
no, but it balances like the efficient mechanics of an action thriller.
Yeah,
with it's still shot on film with the glossiness of the film and the way that New York is shot. And I mean that film at the time was one of the biggest grossing films of that year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was huge. And like the idea now that like Die Hard 3 would be like mid-tier now.
Yeah. And it's interesting because he was always a New York cop, but he was never doing his New York cop thing in the first one. Yeah. The second one's set in an airport. Yeah. It's very personal because he's got his ex-wife on the plane. And this one, it's like, it's John McClane. Yeah. Is he retired?
No, he's just at rock bottom.
Just at rock. Yeah,
he's like hungover.
Yeah, he's nursing a hangover.
Yeah, you can see it. And what's really clear, if you actually want to look at a deeper level, and I think kind of elevates the film as well if you want to look into it. So you've got on the surface you've got this really efficient, mechanical plot, but underneath it really does well at kind of like the racial tension, very post LA riots, mid 90s racial tension. And the way that it writes Samuel L. Jackson's character in it, and the way that Samuel L. Jackson's character questions things in the plot and brings like racial questions to the forefront is really smart and really engaging. And because that's how their characters meet. Yeah. And Samuel L. Jackson questions the role of the police. There's a bit where Samuel L. Jackson's trying to do something, and a policeman, trigger-happy policeman, pulls out a gun straight away, so put it down. And that is really, really interesting to see and really kind of heightens the film. Also, looking at it now that was made in 95, so we're talking 27 years, whatever years later. Yeah. It's really interesting watching that film in a post 9/11 context. It was made pre 9/11. That film is all about terrorist events happening throughout New York in one day.
You will not get a terrorist film about something happening in New York all in one day. That you just wouldn't get that post 9/11.
It's uncomfortably accurate the way it was realized. There's a bit in it where there's a subway explosion and there's this huge and loads of dust just comes out, and you've got city goers just running around covered in dust and all this panic and all this mayhem. And I was like, this is weirdly accurate. It's strange how prescient it was for that. So you've got on the one, so the racial tension that it picks up on, and also like the pre 9/11 element make it worth watching. Die Hard 3 is you know what, it really ain't bad. Yeah, it's solid stuff.